if you're thinking of repotting your Christmas tree, this is a perfect size tree to repot and grow every year. So you can see that the roots are really quite tight round in this pot. So I recommend you going up to a pot, anything up to this size. And you can repot with ericaceous compost, and I'd give it a good feed with ericaceous feed. You probably want to do that after Christmas and each year. And then you top using bark chip or decorative bark. The trees love the acid soil, so that will complement that. The other thing I'd recommend is, if you're keeping your tree in a pot, if you have got space in your garden, you can sink the whole pot into the garden, because the roots will be able to get nourishment from the earth around in the garden, but you will still be able to lift it out in the following year. Another alternative is to use a hessian sack, or just wrap it in hessian instead of using a pot, if you are going to bury it in the ground. And Paul's grandfather used to do this for years and years, literally wrap the roots in a hessian, plant it in the ground, and then lift it the following Christmas. When you plant your tree in the garden, it's probably going to be this size, or maybe even this size, but we start our trees out at this size. Whatever size you're doing, you'll need the same method to plant it. That is to dig a big hole, bigger than the pot size, use ericaceous compost to line that hole, and also use some ericaceous feed. Once you've planted, you want to plant to the same level of the top of your pot as the top of the ground, and then you just mulch with the wood chip, and that helps to keep the moisture in, and also it supplements the ericaceous nature of the soil. When you plant your Christmas tree, don't plant it too deep. The soil level needs to be the same on the pot as it was in the ground. And if you've got any queries about that, if you look at my planted container grown tree video, you'll be able to check up and see me demonstrate that. A word of warning: once you have planted it in the garden, you won't really be able to dig it up and bring it in and take it back out again unless you've kept it in a pot. It's unlikely to survive that transplanting. So this is one of our Nordman firs out in the field, and Paul prunes these regularly to make sure that they do grow into the right shape, and otherwise they turn into these really wide trees, and that's what you would need to do when you have it either in a pot or in the garden, to make sure it grows properly, not too sparse here at the top. It encourages the bushy growth. So Paul is pruning to try to create that conical shape. He has to do all the Christmas trees in the field like this. So he's pruning the lateral shoot out from between the V of two other shoots. The tree will continue to grow and just become more bushy. So the top tip for making sure that your Christmas tree survives, believe it or not, is to think about it in the summer. So whether it's in a pot or the ground, the tree will be thirsty, and especially that first year, it won't necessarily have got the roots down into the ground sufficiently in order to absorb enough moisture to survive. So when you're watering your pots out in your garden in the summer, make sure you water your Christmas tree just as much. So that's the one thing to really think about to make sure that your tree survives. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you need help with choosing your Christmas tree, the variety, we also have a video about that you can watch. But most of all, this is the best way for you to be able to have a tree that you don't throw away after Christmas, and you're doing your bit for the environment.